Hello, beautiful souls. Are you ready for this one? This is an exciting episode with Blissful Bohemian. She is an energy healer. She talks about her spiritual awakening. You know, she went from the science community as an engineer, the corporate world, working the 9 to 5, going into her complete spiritual awakening and being now an energy healer, using singing bowls as her medium to guide people into that connection with source. We really had a great conversation. As you know, my style is very intuitive, don't have any questions written down ever, and we just had a really heart-to-heart conversation, and there's a lot of topics in this one that you guys are really going to love. I want to just first of all say thank you for being here. Seriously, gratitude, honestly, for just being here wherever you clicked on this show, whether it was from YouTube or Spotify, Apple Music. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to take it to the next level and support the show, check out Earth Runners, these amazing grounding sandals that I use, and I get the benefits of grounding because they have this little copper plug at the end, and it just allows you to get all the benefits of grounding while wearing sandals. Pretty cool, right? So just use the code barefoot. That's right, barefoot, BAREFOOT will get you 10% off, and it'll help support the show. I'll get a little kickback, and it's a win-win for everybody. These are honestly great sandals, locally made in California. Check them out, and without any further ado, let's just jump right into this episode with Blissful Bohemian. Yeah, mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, I got you on this one, but all right, we'll roll with it.
Okay, cool. How's it going?
It's good. I just did a reading, so I'm all pumped up, and I got all my accoutrement.
Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time to come on the show and just be here. Yeah.
Yay, I'm excited.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, let's just get right into it. Yeah, we can just talk about like a brief introduction for yourself, just, how you got into spirituality, how all this kind of started for you as becoming an empath, and then we can just kind of go from there and just see what happens.
Okay. I always don't know what to say because my spiritual awakening is so long and convoluted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I would say the most monumental thing was I got really, really sick. I got chronic Epstein-Barr virus. I've always been a spiritual person. I was actually raised in a really, really religious, Christian, fundamentalist Christian household, almost cultic.
Yeah.
So I always cared about those things, and I did for a while gulp the Kool-Aid because that was the only way that I really knew how to express my spirituality. But as I grew and became older, I kind of moved less out of that box, and yeah, I got chronic Epstein-Barr virus in early 2018, so it's only been about 2 years, and I was sick for 18 months. So pretty much the beginning of 2020 is when I really started to feel healthy in myself again. And I used to be an engineer. I used to be a chemical engineer. I used to be a fitness trainer. I used to be in a long-term relationship. I used to live in Florida, and all of that just completely flipped upside down because I realized a big part, the spiritual part of me getting into that chronic illness was that I absolutely hated my life. That I was I was completely subscribed to all of the societal norms and the checklists that you're supposed to do to make you happy, to make you successful, and I had all of that. And I was miserable. I was anxious all the time. I was depressed even. I gained weight, and the sickness really was my wake-up call, hey, you gotta change something or you're gonna freaking die. And even a fourth of my hair, you don't realize, as a woman, I did not realize how much of your ego is here,
Oh yeah.
Hair is so, you have long hair, so a fourth of my hair just fell out, and I thought it was just gonna keep going, and I was just gonna be bald, and I was gonna have to move to Tibet or something. So that was a really monumental part of my spiritual awakening, was getting sick. It was I compare it to if there's this Bible story of Jonah where God tells him I need you to go to this town and help them, and he's yeah, I'm not going to do that. And then things just get worse and worse and worse for Jonah until eventually he has to sit for 3 days in the belly of a whale, a whale God like tells the whale to swallow him. So like when I was sick and I couldn't do anything, I was awake for like maybe 8 hours a day. That was my whale period. That was like
Yeah.
sit and think about what you've done. So I'm very happy where I am right now. And yeah, like I said, I was a corporate slave engineer, making my dad proud, but now I'm a holistic health guide, somewhat of an influencer, I guess. Like I put stuff online,
Sure.
and energy healer.
Awesome. Awesome. So cool. So cool. I mean, I look at all of this as just, the transformation is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I look at all of this, going from the outside, and going within, and now you're shining bright from that inner picture of who you are as that soul instead of this, physical being that we all have that we're just kind of carrying around with us. So it's just a beautiful story, and congratulations, first of all. I mean, you did it, right? Like it's always fun looking back, and what a recent thing. I mean, for my, background as well, it was IBS. So yeah, similar physical, trauma basically, or just those emotions that you have to get through when it really comes to your body, and then kind of being a catalyst for your spiritual awakening. Yeah, so thanks again for sharing, because I think people, listening and watching can really gain from that, and just wherever they're at, it's something that we're all just doing the best we can, and it's important to know that that soul is within all of us, and you just have to go for it.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. So so now that you're on the other side of life, and you're more expansive, and things are a little bit more mystical, how do you kind of like define spirituality? What does that mean for you now compared to like your corporate view or lens, how it used to be?
Ooh.
I just think yeah, because everybody has just a different term of what that means for them in their own life. So I'm just curious, in your own words, what does that mean for you?
It's just all about connection. When I think spirituality, I automatically think just crown chakra, and that's all about like connection.
Yeah.
So, and, recognizing the connection, feeling into it, operating with the consciousness, like knowing, being conscious of it. Yeah, I would say like to me, spirituality is just the word like connection. We don't got to make it complicated, right? That's like the
Yeah.
point. You got to like decomplicate things. Compared to before, it was all about like achieving because I'm a big achiever, which is something I very struggle with. Like this week, it's Friday, and things have come up through the week, which are blessings to me, but they've caused me not to achieve like my goal for the week. And that's like another like chance to practice and learn and remember
Yes.
like that it's okay. It's okay. Like that's fine. So yeah, I definitely took a nosedive, maybe from like 19 to 23, learning about things in spirituality. And that's when it was more of like the achieve period, like
Yeah.
achieve. But yeah, it's all about showing up and feeling into that connection. That's it.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree with you. I love the words that you use there, and connection is amazing. That's really what it's all about. And you're right. That's the crown chakra. That's the, connection to the higher self, or to the cosmic energy that we all have a part. And not many people, have that, energy tapped in, or that Kundalini online. So, for you, the Epstein bar and just the physical part, was a catalyst to your awakening. It's just for people listening right now that, they're hear about spirituality, they're curious about spirituality, they're watching YouTube videos, they know about it, but what's that key experience, that people need to have in order to really, have that awakening? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like going from the intellect, right? Like thinking about it, reading about it, to actually experiencing it. Like what was that moment? Like how can people, can create that in their own life? Because I know I get those questions all the time. I'm sure you do too. People are so, in that seeking phase, and they want, to be happy and healthy, and they want all these benefits from having a spiritual life. It's just they are either not putting in the work, or they're struggling at some, point in their path, and they're hitting that block, and we're all experiencing that in different levels. And I'm just curious, for you, what would you tell somebody, in that moment, in order to help them, get to that next level?
It's all about confronting the shadow. Honestly, like if you want to get to the goods, you got to snuff out the darkness.
Yeah.
It's all
Oh yeah.
about confronting. It's all about like, are you willing to get really, really uncomfortable and take a good hard look at yourself, or as I like to say, like stare down the barrel of the gun? Are you willing to do
Yeah.
that? So that's like the question
Beautiful.
I would ask them.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yes, oh my gosh, I resonate with that so much. I mean, nobody wants to talk about that stuff, right? I think it needs to be addressed. A lot of that stuff, what I do on my channel, it's very much, debunking or demystifying a lot of that stuff, because I feel like people get caught in that trap of like light and love and just chakras and energy and all that stuff, which is beautiful. It's not, bad. It's there, it exists, and we need to use that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you're right that shadow work, or that uncomfortable feeling, those emotions, those traumas, need to be brought to the surface, and it's not easy. It's not comfortable at all, and a lot of people that I see, at least, especially in the spiritual movement, are bypassing. They're just avoiding it. So I don't see a lot of people actually talking about that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the entire point of conjuring the light is to bring it into the dark. That's
Yeah.
the entire point.
Yeah.
Like missing the mark. That's like a lot of it's kind of in the same arena as spiritual materialism.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's kind of like, I don't want to judge it and call it fake, or even imply that like what those people doing is fake. It's just like you said, it's like it's still in like the before, and I trust that they will come through. And sometimes it takes IBS Epstein-Barr to push you through.
Sure.
So I almost
totally.
feel lucky that I had that to push me through.
Definitely. I understand. Yeah, that's what I like to call the cosmic view, right? Like, you can get outside and understand that cosmic view of what's going on, and you recognize that it actually brought grace into your life. And in the moment, yes, there's a lot of suffering and it's uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, you really grow as a person, and that's what we're here to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually see quite, maybe it's just the people that I follow, but I see quite the opposite in my feeds, at least. Like I follow a lot of shadow work people though, so.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. That's good. I mean, it's out there, and I know people are talking about it more. I just think people fall for the trap of just spiritual awakening, and keywords like third eye and kundalini and astral projection. All that stuff gets. I guess you're right with the keyword with materialism. I think a lot of people just get caught into the materialism trap with that as a whole. That's all. So that's where I feel called to kind of help demystify a lot of that stuff, because again, it's real, it's powerful. It's just, it's not what most people think it is. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you're on TikTok, right? We're both on TikTok. Spiritual woke talk, if you will. I don't know what to call it, but
I haven't heard that one yet. That's a good one.
I just made that up.
Okay,
so
cool.
Obviously there's a lot of young people on the platform. There's a lot of teenagers, and like I'm sure you get this as well, like the amount of questions about the third eye, about astral projection, about soulmates. It's in that materialism realm, but at the same time, I'm not mad about it, because they're still seeking.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Gen Z has a really big thirst for spirituality. And it's really cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be on TikTok and help them,
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally understand that, and that's that's exactly what we're here to do, and that's where I want to kind of guide people inward. If I were to just sum it all up, because I was very much in that seeker phase. Things happen, there was trauma and things in my life that you just can't control, and that's kind of the point that I would drive home. Like, for me, at least, all the major catalysts and transformations happened in my life that were beyond my control. It was simply me just showing up. And a lot of people, again, I think they're just getting caught in that trap of the materialism. That's all. So I just want to steer them away from that and go a little bit deeper inward. And I would just simply talk about meditation. So that's kind of like where we can get into, I guess, some of the techniques, if you want to share, with shadow work, or however you would elaborate on the exact techniques that people can do in order to experience, that higher consciousness.
Okay. When I do my energy readings and healings with my bowls, I have people go into a meditative state, and a lot of them have no idea how to do that. And how I explain it to them, very simply, like what meditation is. It's not focusing. It's not thinking of nothing. The easiest way that you can do it is just to bring the attention to the breath. It's just about like single mind, like single focus or single attention. And the thoughts will come by, but just let them, don't identify with them. And just every time that you bring the attention back from the thought, that's like a bicep curl for your mind. So you're strengthening the mind to be able to just sit and feel right now and not have to have thoughts. And it's not that you're not thinking of anything, you're just being.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that's how I explain it to like someone who's never meditated, and they're like, oh yeah, just breathe and I'll think of things, and when I do, just bring it back to the breath, and just bring it back to the breath, bring it back to the breath.
That's good. That's a good way to look at it. I like the bicep analogy there, because it's a willpower. It's a willpower thing. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, really flexing and getting that willpower. That's the biggest thing that's missing right now that I see, just in our consciousness as a whole. Just what's missing, that willpower that's getting taken away from us.
Yeah. I also do, like, you preach meditation as like the fundamental of your spiritual practice, because it creates within you that solace space that you can return to, and it also helps you to realize that where you're going, when you go inside, where are you going. You start to explore that, you start to realize that place you're going, the thing that you're looking at, that space of solace is all that is.
Yes.
So meditation is like really, really fundamental. It's the foundation for growing spiritually.
100%. I completely agree with that. So why the singing bowls and stuff? What got you into singing bowls?
I don't know, man. That was just what was thrust upon me. They're just, some people read tarot, some people use pendulums. You know what I mean? Some people.
Oh yeah.
That's just my tool. I don't know. I actually was gifted this one, the throat one, for Christmas, and I put it up on TikTok, and it just blew up, and I was like, all right, I guess we're going this way. And I started to practice like how to do readings, how to do like energy healings. And, some people go like Reiki, which is a very pure form of energy healing. I'm actually trying to learn right now. Some people do, there's all kinds of different energy healings, but this is just what I intuitively started doing. Like, I had the 7 bowls, and I started to practice with other like psychic friends, and this is what I was like, I guess I'll just play the bowls. And as I play them and like feel into each individual energy center, I get like clairaudient, claircognizant downloads that I can just like share with the person. So I don't know, that's just my tool.
Yeah, wonderful. Great. No, you just got to embrace it. I mean, yeah, the sound is definitely a vehicle for that, and it's amazing, and it's all there. So I'm glad that people are tapping into that. I mean, it's funny because a similar thing happened to me on TikTok. I've always been into this stuff, and then all of a sudden this silly app comes out, and I just play a little singing bowl of music, and all of a sudden people are having all these crazy reactions and feeling tingles and having these awakenings and all this stuff. And then, I mean, I've always been doing this stuff. I just didn't think people were, into it. And then I eventually like made a CD and started doing meditations and blah, blah, blah. And I think people are starting just to connect the dots, that's all, to just sound and frequency and energy being the main thing that it's all about, rather than like this physical, concrete world, right? And that's what this Great Awakening is all about, right? Going from that third dimension of the mind and all this physical, Babylon, into this higher consciousness, which is centered in the heart. So it's beautiful to see, happening, throughout the planet and all the different waves, especially on social media.
Yes, it needs it, right? I actually, I have like a unique, I feel, perspective on energy, because I do have that engineering degree, and this is something I really like to bring into my brand, is we can talk the spiritual side, but let's talk let's talk the science side. And I've learned through the years that like science is a measurement. It's not the whole picture, right? It's just, it's like us trying to construct and understand, but it's not. People who are like, well, I need a scientific explanation. Well, maybe science hasn't explained that yet. Like we just were able to prove that auras exist scientifically, but obviously we've known about them for how long? Like thousands, tens of thousands of years. But yeah, the engineering part, like engineering is essentially just, no matter what discipline it is, a study and tweaking of energy within a system. So I feel like, and people, oh, like, I don't believe in energy. I'm like, what do you mean you don't believe in energy? Like literally everything around you has a vibration, because the molecules are moving at like a certain frequency.
It's beautiful. It's so cool. No, I completely agree with you. I have the same conversation over and over again, especially with people that just don't believe they have a soul for the same thing, and it's the same experience. And it's cool to see science catch up with, quantum physics is, I guess, the current. I just look at it like different language. That's all it is. Like the language or the word quantum is just what we're, using now in 2020 that people, thousands of years ago were just using different words to describe the same thing. And it's cool. And I'm whatever justifies their belief system, I'm all for it. If that's what it takes to get scientific for you to understand energy, then go for it. This science has been around for a long time. The way that I look at it is, can you practice the same thing and create the same results, right? That's kind of the way that I look at it. So like yoga just as a whole, in my opinion, is a science, and a lot of people get that confused with religion and all this other stuff based on their own programming. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you can do the same exact, pose or meditation and get the same results. So it's just quantifiable, right? Yeah, exactly. Science. So at the end of the day, you throw people's experiences on top of it, and then there you go. Now we're all sharing this great thing that we call meditation. And then sadly, it gets, marketed or brainwashed. The way that I look at it, it's like, for everything that we know with these tools about light and love, it's like there's always going to be something on the dark end to, take that or use it in a different way. So that's what we see happening, that you kind of have to break through. Like for me, oh my gosh, just the years of deprogramming or unschooling, that's how I look at it. It's like, oh my gosh, if I didn't have the indoctrination in the public school system and all this stuff, I would have been, I have no regrets. I'm just telling you, like, if it really comes down to it, if you just have that pure natural slate, you're good. Like, we're born with that abundance. We're born with these abilities that you're talking about, the empathy, the clairaudience, clairsentience, all that stuff is very normal. It's just our society doesn't really, allow it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I always wonder like what we would be like if we never learned to read or write or count.
Yep.
Like how intuitively based we would be.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there. Small gatherings, like in the woods for months at a time. Like when you go, extended weeks, I highly recommend that without looking at your phone or a mirror or anything. Like that's really where things start awakening. Basically, it's Vipassana meditation is what I'm talking about. If you want to get technical, it's just, like I said, when you get rid of all those external things and deprogram and unschool all that stuff, that base core ability and spirit is there to be awakened. So it's just a beautiful process if you let it happen, And I think a lot of people are simply just caught up in their everyday life and distractions of who they think they are, and they just got to kind of get all that stuff out of the way and take the time to go into solitude and really just let that come out of them, and these abilities will shine. Yeah. Oh yeah, highly recommend it. And then I know we were talking a little bit on Instagram about the earth chakras and stuff. That's another thing, right? It's like you just got to get to these higher centers on the earth too. Yeah, Hawaii is a big one for me. Mount Shasta is right around the corner for me too. So just bigger, energy vortexes, Sedona, there's a lot of popular ones. Yeah, so I highly recommend going to those places as well to get a little, activation. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, nice. Denver's great. Mountains are beautiful. Closest thing to you would be the Tetons. There's a lot of beautiful energy there in Wyoming as well. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, so any other tools, let's say, for people that are getting started, on the spiritual path? You mentioned sound healing and tarot, and any other things like, do you use crystals, or like what are you into that really keeps you, sane and grounded? Yeah, there you go. Right now in 2020 during this crazy time, right?
What keeps me grounded? I'm really into earthing. I'm a big earthing fan. There's Washington Park, like 5-minute walk from my house. I'll just go and starfish out in the grass, and it's like you can feel the recharge. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm an earth sign, like my sun sign is earth sign, so I really connect with the element earth. I connect with all the elements a lot, and I think of things a lot in terms of elements. So I'm really into incense. I think incense, just like, as you're maybe sitting at your desk, that's like more of like an air element thing. Just like the waves of like smell is really grounding because it just pulls you into the moment and makes you use your senses. Baths. Epsom salt baths, essential oil. I'll put like some flowers in there. I'll bring like some crystal babies and just like sit in there and meditate. I think baths are really, really, like, spiritual cleansing baths are really great for grounding. I try to do those on days when I do readings and healings. And what else? I like to keep a candle at it's like kind of going out a little bit. I like to keep a candle at my desk, which is where I'm at right now. It's actually the crown chakra. Ooh. And just to, and again, playing on the elements, just to like if you stare at the flame almost. Does that sound weird? Like, just to be like, hey, that's fire. It could like totally kill me. It could like burn down the whole house, but it's just sitting here.
It's so cool.
So I feel like that's another like, that's like a weird way of grounding where I can just look at like the concentrated power, and that really that pulls me like down to earth, I guess.
Yeah, big time. Oh yeah, that fire's real.
I think of grounding very much in terms of elements for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I agree with all of those. Yeah, practice all of those. Yeah, and especially the fire one. It's just, yeah, something very primitive, and all of us looking into fire, I think it just brings you into more of a comfortable place and more of that homey vibe, and just makes you feel comfortable all around.
Yeah, definitely. So that's what I'm doing to ground right now, and that's what I recommend to a lot of people that I work with. But it's crazy times. I've taken Facebook and Twitter off of my phone, you know, just so I'm not looking at it, because especially when the pandemic started up and nobody knew what was going to happen, and the grocery stores were like completely empty, and things were just like, just go ahead and take that off. I don't watch the news. Like, the news is a bunch of crap, to say the least. It's like in Ayurveda, maybe you know that you eat with all the senses. So it's if you're an empathic person, which I think if you are developing spiritually, you'll become more and more empathic if you're not naturally already. It's very important as an empathic person to monitor what is coming in through your senses, what is going on, and even things that you might not even think of, like EMF, electromagnetic fields, like how sleeping with your phone by your head, stuff like that. There's just so much that can influence you if you are empathic, therefore like a sponge to energy. So ground in those ways and in other ways if you know them, and just be really conscious of what is in your environment, what you're eating, what you're smelling, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, the people that are around you, how clean your house is, even, like if you like it, if it brings joy to you.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree with all of those, especially the grounding, and people take that very lightly, and it's something that's, serious, and it's very powerful. It might sound all, hippy dippy to just take off your shoes and walk barefoot, but at the end of the day, it's like you're really getting some benefits. And we can go, scientific with it as well, for those people, right, with EMF and negative ions, right? And that's really what's being transferred. And thank you for mentioning the EMF too, especially in this, 5G world. I've posted about 5G a lot, especially on TikTok. Everyone's gotten taken down, Instagram taken down. I've gotten many YouTube videos flagged. Oh yeah, it's already happening on a level. Like, it's happened to me before, but now it's even sped up a lot. So it's amazing how these algorithms and the power of all this, like channels, like they force you to just be this person. Like, just so you know, like I was posting all the bowl videos. It's all wonderful. And I started posting up more broad stuff, and it was just getting flagged and taken down. Like they force you to kind of, be that one person, and that's really the sad side that people don't really see as far as social media when they're only looking at the screen. I just had to throw that out there, because everything that I talk about is real. It's just at the same time there's definitely a bigger pressure that's behind the scenes that's influencing all of this. So we all have to do our part to kind of navigate that. And yes, I can't tell you how much work I do to combat EMF, and I have Orgonite sitting all around me right now when I'm recording these videos. I have a lot of things in the household that I do every time around technology. It's huge, and especially if you're empathetic or have any empath qualities, yes, you're going to feel it even more. So your cell phone needs to stay on airplane, especially especially these days. It's going two-way. It's going in, and they're reading and listening to what you're saying, right? Big Brother's very much out there. So I don't want to get all fear-based and get all conspiracied out. I'm just saying it exists, and we just have to bring, awareness to it. That's all.
And I think people don't realize, they're like, okay, what's like 5G? Why is that so different? And 5G pings from device to device instead of satellite device. So that's just so much more down here on like more close to the Earth's crust, if you will, like all of these waves just passing through our bodies and auric fields, and it influences it's vibration. So
It's real. It's true. Just like the microwave, just like anything else. The microwave's only at 2.4 gigahertz. It's not as harmful, but it is, effective. It is harmful, and it does alter your cells. There's people that'll debunk that or won't say that's real. It's whatever. I know where I stand, and yeah, of course. Yeah, X-rays, when you go get an X-ray done, these are all just different spectrums of energy, and gamma rays, right? So we can get all scientific. I love geeking out with this stuff. I don't. I guess as I get older or whatever, I just don't need it as much. I do it, I guess, for social media that want to prove that, say, I'm talking about pseudoscience or whatever. Because for me, I'm on the energy side of life. Like my proof is in the energy work. You know what I mean? And honestly, the intellect kind of distracts me more and more because I don't need to prove anything and I don't have to defend myself at all. In fact, it's like annoying when people want to get in those arguments with me. I'm just like, okay, no, thank you. I'm on to something else. So it's fun to see people, ask these questions though at the same time, right? Like 5G and stuff, because look how fast these things are implemented and nobody knows about it. And then it's like, quote unquote, the new normal, right? And then there you go. So
I hear you. Like I'll get a comment being like, oh, people who think this is real, and then like a clown emoji. And then like, bro, you are probably the same person who turns on like happy music when you want to feel happy and it works.
Yep.
It's the same thing. It's just sound. It's sound healing. It's vibration. Yeah. And I want to touch on the science side of earthing. So I used to work on in an electronics, a microelectronics lab, and in everything that we worked on, all these like little tiny parts, you had to be strapped in with a metal bracelet that would strap into like the thing that you're working on, the platform that you're working on, and then that platform would be connected to the wall, like a metal piece in the wall, which would then go outside, and eventually it's just like a metal connection, like a conductive connection, all the way until it got to a copper grounding rod in the earth, because earth is the ultimate ground. So like you and if you didn't do that, the tiniest bit of electrostatic discharge that was built up, like even just from going like this, you could hurt the part. You could like shock the part. So like you can imagine how much electrostatic discharge and excess energy that we build up during the day, and earthing is just go directly to the ultimate ground, just and release it. And yeah, so it's always weird to me. Oh, earthing is so hippie. It's not. The same concept of earthing is applied in like defense contractors, microelectronics labs. Like the most high-tech technology we have is using earthing or grounding. So that's real. There's I get a lot of comments like, oh, that's dumb, that's hippie dippy crap, and I'm just like, but it's not.
Nope, it's not. That's why, we have the energy that we have. People ask these questions all the time. And like I said, it's all the deprogramming and unschooling. Like I said, all the work that we have to put into to just have that natural, life. And that's really where the abundance and the clarity and the energy is coming from, not, out of just nowhere. It's like, you got to think about how much that is interfering just with your simple biology, right? It's 5G, the grounding, the ions that are building up, the positive ions rather, that are building up, through electronics in your home, through where you are. I mean, nobody does this. Exactly. The biggest one right now in summertime, right? And like I said, I do a lot of, I have sandals that have a copper plug in it, for my earth runners. I do so many things. I could go on and on about this. So I just don't want to geek people out. I just want people to know that it's real, like this energy is real. We know what we're saying. And if you got to really get it, home, drive that home, because you got to create that change in your own life in order to protect yourself from this energy. And then you're going to be surprised how much, your system comes back online, because you're not being interfered with all this stuff. And so you can live in this modern world. What's funny, that when I first got into this, like I ran to Alaska, I just started like all social media stuff like a few years ago, and I ran to Alaska and I lived off the grid for a long time, and I still live in my van and travel and building a family. Now I'm starting a retreat center in Hawaii. That's the ultimate vision, because Hawaii has always been my favorite place to, be there and just to share that real natural lifestyle with people. That's something, Hawaii hasn't really been covered up, by the Babylon. Like the way that I look at it simply is environment, right? Like our environment, it doesn't create a spiritual life right here in the Western, world, unfortunately. And I've traveled a lot, and there are certain countries, like Thailand, for example, that just have spirituality like wired into their country and their population, and that's what's really missing here. And it's really fragmented with churches and a lot of, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. It's not, you can feel it. You can just feel it. It's not conducive to the spirit, So at the end of the day, for me, Hawaii has really been that number one location. So I can't wait to share that with people. That's like a little sneak peek into the future. But the point I'm getting to is, again, you have to have that natural place. I know Colorado is beautiful. There's some great places you can get out and just have that nature vibe,
Yeah, like 20-minute drive and you're like in the mountains ready to hike.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like
awesome.
a big reason of why I came here.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. This is great. I'm happy. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm just cool to see this transformation and your new life. And it's just like this new person, right? It's like for people, listening and watching, I just want you to know that it's like, you can do anything. You can achieve anything with this stuff. It's not just spiritual woo-woo, hippiness. You could really take these techniques and bring them into your life to empower yourself and to really create that change that you're looking for. And it's just a matter of time for you implementing all this stuff and really creating that life that you want, and really bring this into a practice, that resonates with you. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that practice is anything that reduces suffering, and that's going to vary from person to person. Even though I definitely recommend meditation as that like foundation for everyone, some people will want to journal, some people will want to go to talk therapy, some people will want to, you know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways to reduce that suffering and come closer to looking within.
I agree. That's well said, 100%. Yeah, sometimes you just need to say no when you really mean it, It's, if you're forced into this other thing, a lot of people, I think, are obligated to certain things in their life, whether it's their parents or their significant other or whatever pressure, that's coming from. And you really just have to abide into that self, that soul, that higher self that is really within you, and turn that online, through your meditation and through your practice, and everything will be a lot clearer.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, any other last words of advice for people, listening or watching that you can give them as a little nudge in the right direction?
Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and it's just gonna push you farther from where you're trying to go. Especially if you're ironic if you're judging yourself when it comes to your spiritual practice and development. Don't judge yourself, and forgive people. And then once you forgive people, you can forgive yourself. Forgive people. Forgive your mother that doesn't accept you. Forgive that bully that, caused you to be insecure for years to come. Forgive that person at work that's giving you a hard time, because they're just learning like you are.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. And where can people find you on the digital world out there, on this space that we live in?
At BlissfulXBohemian on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And then all three of those have a link to my link tree with all my stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put that in the description and all the show notes and stuff so people can find you easily. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, awesome. We'll enjoy the rest of your day. Cool. Glad you enjoyed it. We'll do it again sometime.
All right.
All right. Namaste.
All right. Namaste.